What if you could cheat in Fortnite without ever getting banned? That's the goal. So in this video, I've boiled down my 2 years of closet cheating experience into a 3-pillar formula. By the way, we're going much deeper than just don't beam players across the map. We're going over the secrets to cheating in Fortnite so you can play completely undetected. Cheating in Fortnite can give you perfect aim and godlike awareness, but it can also leave you with that dreaded message, you've been permanently banned. To understand how not to get banned, let's watch this next clip. What you just saw was a player who was able to cheat without drawing suspicion. Running around only hitting headshots is a fast track to getting banned. And to fix this, we're going to need to make you what's called a legit config. All this means is that we're going to configure our cheat so that it looks just like a normal player. It's recommended to stick to only the 2 following features. Starting with aimbot, we need to make sure we have high smoothing and visual check enabled. If you don't know what these are, don't worry as I'm going to explain. Smoothing is a feature on this cheat that gives it a natural look. For example, when we lower the smoothing to 0, the aimbot snaps onto targets, which makes your aimbot obvious. However, when we set it to 5 or higher, the aimbot will look natural and people will assume you simply have good aim. But here's a pro tip that most people don't talk about. If you're in close quarters combat, you can turn down the smoothing to a lower value. However, if you're shooting people at a distance, you'll definitely want to increase the smoothing a bit. Think of smoothing as how human do you want your aimbot to look. Next, we have the visual check feature, and when it's enabled, your aimbot will not target enemies if they're behind a wall. This is a unique feature that is super useful to prevent pre-firing people. The next feature we're going to use is ESP. On this cheat, for example, we have a bunch of ESP options like box, skeleton, head, health, name, and distance ESP. This is highly customizable and is mostly just preference. Now let's talk about how to use ESP without looking like you have it. The biggest mistake is tracking players through walls with your crosshair. You know he's about to come through that door, but you can't stare at the door waiting for him. A legitimate player would be checking other angles, reloading, or looking at their map. You need to use your peripheral awareness to not make it obvious. For legit cheating, I recommend sticking to only aimbot and ESP so you can play Fortnite without being blatant. However, the next step is also super important. If you're playing on a level 1 account with no history, you're raising 2 red flags. First, when people see you dropping a 10 KD, they're gonna report you. The second red flag is that the anti-cheat will also raise suspicion. When a brand new player starts dropping a 10 KD, the anti-cheat will mark you as suspicious and will watch you far more closely. To fix this, try to play on an houred account before cheating. Something like 500 plus hours in the game will do. I would recommend going to buy an account with hours from a website called laws.guru. However, if you are on a brand new account, it isn't a deal breaker, you'll just have to follow the next pillar even closer. Using